we are about to be joined by Angelique Bates. She was one of the original cast members of All That. She's a comedian, actress, recording artist. She's currently working with a gentleman named Cavante Jackson, I think. He was on Everybody Hates Chris.
Oh, okay.
And they were working on a project together. But yeah, we were. I was on Twitter. We've been, as you guys know, looking very much into the Nickelodeon thing. And we came across Miss Bates. I guess we'll get her on the line.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now.
Hello?
Hello. Hi, Angelique Bates.
This is her.
Hey, how you doing? This is Mersh and Royce from RTC. We really want to thank you for coming on. For those of you that are listening, Angelique Bates, actress, comedian, recording artist, and original cast member of the show All That, which is sort of how we, got in contact with her. How are you today?
I'm pretty good. Thank you for having me on. I'm literally driving as I talk to you guys. That's the only way I was going to be able to squeeze this in.
Yeah, no, and we really appreciate it. I mean, like I said, we were just setting it up to our listeners. We've bbeen back and forth for a couple weeks now, and you've been extremely busy. But yeah, we really want to thank you for coming on. And now you, I'm going to get right down to it. I mean, you were one of the original cast members of All That. Obviously, a show that pretty much anybody listening to this was raised on at some point. So yeah. What was that like? I mean, you were like 12, right? Or even younger? What was it like?
Yeah, it was probably 11, 12 years old. I mean, probably for any child at that age, it's exciting. You don't really realize, and none of us realize how much of an impact we were going to have on a lot of people. It was just a job. We booked a show, and we were just, Universal Studios was like our backlot. So that was like a playground, and it was Nickelodeon Studios. So you had the slime kitchen and the booger kitchen and everything. So it was just a big playground for us. Some of us hadn't had anything of that magnitude. I think Kenan Thompson was probably the only one that actually, when he came in, he was from Mighty Ducks. So he was probably used to it, but a lot of us, we hadn't hit anything that major.
You kind of made some waves. There's been a lot of stuff going around Hollywood. And you came out recently as a survivor of both physical and mental abuse at the hands of it was your own mom, right? It was your manager?
Well, see, yeah, it was my mom, but she was never my manager. People just automatically, back then that was that whole area of stage moms or whatever, but she was never my manager, but she was definitely my mom.
Got it.
So yeah, to answer your question.
Okay. And was that something that ever, did that occur, that was on set? Was that around? Because obviously, like you said, you're at work most of the day, and then you're at school. You're pretty much probably living in a studio. So, I mean, it's not something it's something that people definitely were privy to and saw, right? I mean, it wasn't like a secret, I don't think.
Well, I wouldn't say my mom was beating the crap out of me in front of people, but, there were things that happened behind closed doors. We were all put in, condos or whatever, and sometimes apartments where maybe one of the cast members may have been a neighbor. Mm-hmm. So, not to put anyone's names out there because it would be unfair to pull any other cast members into it.
Right.
But there was one season where I was put above a particular cast member's head. So they were aware, and that's how certain rumors started making it back to set. So production was aware.
You guys are kids too. It's it's already a lot to ask to be working since 5 a.m. I get even though you said it felt like a playground, it's still you're still getting up at 5 and memorizing lines.
Right. It was that I would say all of us are probably in agreement. That was probably the most dreadful part.
Right.
That we hate that part right there. Because at 5 a.m., oh my God, that was crucial. It was because we just knew we were about to get a revision, and we're shooting like every week. So it's like some of us were in more scenes than others. Second season, they ended up cutting down a lot of my scenes, due to politics that was going on. So I didn't really have that much of an issue. But, first season, I was in a lot of scenes, and I had a lot of lines that I had to hurry up and memorize the revisions. And, as a kid, you're doing it at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. in the morning, because you're having to wake up early so you can memorize the script before you get picked up by the runner.
Yeah, and I mean, doesn't that sort of that lack of, I guess, boundaries for a kid? I mean, that could, obviously in your case and in the case of, like, let's say, I know you're friends with, like, Katrina Johnson still, like, obviously they don't all turn out completely whacked out, but it still has to have, I would assume, some sort of an effect on a child when you're basically living like an adult. In a lot of ways, you're the boss.
I get what you're asking me now. Okay, because like I said, as a kid, no, that wasn't noticeable to us. Like I said, a lot of us, that was our first time booking stuff. As an adult, I understand what you're asking me.
Right.
So, as an adult, yes, I can see where that has probably contributed to a lot of issues and the whole stigma of, child stars gone bad and distress or whatever. In the era that I was on TV, I made it sound like I was like super ancient or something, but the era that I was on,
back when I was a kid,
right? Child labor laws hadn't completely. They weren't as strict as they were, like they are now. So yeah, they were saying, back then you had to follow certain rules. Parents it was supposed to be mandatory that parents were on set. Was that the case in certain situations? No, it was not, because being over in Orlando, it was kind of pushed for the parents to not be. Where my issues started happening with production was that my mom, it was a double-edged sword with my mom. She was protecting me from production, and then, at her hands, I was, being abused.
Right.
So it's like, it's kind of like a no-win situation right there. But where they started having a bullseye for her was that she was one of the parents that was not going to leave me unattended on set, because by law, parents are supposed to be there. So they didn't like that fact that she wouldn't leave me.
And that, that's a theme. This theme seems to keep coming up in these interviews that we do, where there's this almost this methodical separation of the parent from the child that they do either consciously or subconsciously, which sort of grooms them and create, you know what I mean? Where that's sort of what I'm getting at, where now you're a kid, you're the breadwinner, you're making money, you're pretty much living in Universal Studios, and now they're, they're by the way, the parents don't need to be hanging around.
Can I say, even as an adult, that sounds awesome? Like, I would live in Universal Studios now. I'd be like, all right, can I get in Harry Potter land? Because I want to be in Harry Potter land, you know?
Right. As a kid, like I said, that's why it's a big difference. Like, I get what you were asking me as a kid, but as a kid, no, that didn't bring a red flag to us. And as a kid, we thought, oh God, can you just go with the other parents? Like, can you just let us have fun?
Yeah.
Like, that was our thing. As an adult and a mother of two kids, I get what it was, like all the, the legal issues of it. So yeah, no, there's a lot of productions. I know that one in particular. The separation of the kid and the parent was something that was very pushed, and that was where the issues started becoming, before they even probably knew that there was any abuse by the hands of my mother. But she wasn't cooperating. I'm trying to think of the word. She wasn't cooperating.
Right. Yeah.
Like I said, the other parents were just like, oh, great. My kid has a job. Oh, my kid's making me money. Oh, we're going to be rich. Of course, they're not trying to ruffle any feathers. My mother has always been one of those people. She doesn't care what feathers she ruffles, whatever. She's following the double-edged sword. She's following the law to an extent. If you get what I'm saying.
Now, question for you, because there was something came out. We were reading an article in 2002 that they used to have these camps and stuff, and I know that some stuff came out about this guy, Brian Peck. Was he the dialogue coach at the same time you were a cast member?
I know that name, and actually when my publicist mentioned it to me, I was like, I know the name Brian Peck. Like I said, you have to remember I was 11, 12 years old.
Right, of course.
Like there was stuff like, if I had known any of this stuff would be popping up right now, like if you could have told me at 11, 12 years old that this big old Hollywood shakedown would be happening, like I would not have believed it. I remember Brian Peck. Brian Peck never did anything to me.
Right.
I can't even tell you what Brian Peck did, to be quite honest, but I just remembered that name because it's Brian Peck.
Right.
I just remembered that name because there's certain names that just ring a bell to me. I can't even tell you what he did. I do remember him being around, though.
You know, if you were to think back to that time, if you did go to anybody on set and say, look, something happened to me, how do you think they would have reacted to something like that?
You know what? Honestly, I don't even know, because back in the reason why I had to mention that particular period in time, that was before social media. That was before a whole lot of stuff, even with the trust funds, the Coogan accounts. That was before that became a legal thing, because parents were, taking the kids' money and everything. I think that was before being pregnant wasn't cool. Now you got celebrities all on red carpets like, I'm pregnant, I'm on my 20th child. Like, being in a relationship, you had to lie about being in a relationship, let alone being married. So that particular time period, I think it would have been looked down on. It would have been probably like, they would have wanted it to be quiet.
Yeah, I mean, it's only asking because it's not even because we see all the stories now that came out with Kevin Spacey and then paying people off and all these other people, and it's like we're more. I mean, not that the other stuff that hasn't happened to adults in Hollywood isn't bad, because it is absolutely, but we just have a feeling that they're not going to differentiate between adults and children, and like you said, you're 11, 12 years old, you're in Universal, you're hanging out, you don't think it's a job. But like when you become a mother yourself, you're like, well, wait a second, this is a little weird. Would I, I would, I'm going to be next to my kid. I'm not going to leave him alone with a strange dude all day. You know what I mean? It's this.
Well, I don't. My child actually, my child does entertainment, and the only reason why I let him do entertainment right now is because he's under, my guidance, and I kind of want him to get it out of his system and not have to, not have to deal with it when he turns 18, because, I'm not really trying to catch any cases because I know what this industry is. I've seen people that I knew for a fact were straight, not be straight anymore. If you can,
I get it.
You pretty much, I've seen the actual difference. I know when it happened, but then they have completely blown up. But it's because they had to pretty much in so many ways sell their soul and other body parts. But it happened to them when they were young.
Right.
Is the thing. And they were young. And my son in particular, he's a handsome boy. He's got long hair. He's got the hazel eyes. They already look at him, and I'm like, not today. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. My mom, like I said, she was there. I was to be in the dressing room when everything was done. There was no, you can go hang out with the celebrities when they come. And as a kid, I hated that. Right. We had Usher, we had TLC, Aaliyah, everybody coming through. The other kids could go and hang out, but I had to go back home. Like I couldn't hang out,
Yeah.
And as a kid, hated that. It was like the evilest thing in the world. But the production wanted that, and it wasn't happening. So they're looking at that.
And by the way, can I say I'm a huge TLC fan, and that would have bummed me out too as a kid if I couldn't meet them. I'm being honest. Like, I remember, I know that people are going to think, oh, what's wrong with you? But I swear to God, as a straight man, I know every word to every song on Crazy, Sexy, Cool. And I'm going to admit that right now. I really do.
Yeah. If somebody even just starts playing the first riff from Creep,
forget Creep. You can play Red Light Special, and I'll sing every word.
Creep or Red Light Special, I'm in. I'm all in with that.
Right. Exactly. So you're talking like a 12-year-old, or 11-year-old, and you can't go hang with Ray Jane, and you can't go hang with TLC. What? Are you serious? Right. But like I said, it was hand in hand, because also I was being abused at the same time.
Right.
So
now
I don't want to be at the house.
Yeah, that actually makes me curious too. Now, because we actually had somebody on here before who told us about, like these weird auditions and they separate you from your parents. But she was one of those who, like you, her mom was like, "No, I'm not leaving." She was kind of mad at her mom back in the day for blowing it for her, but at the same time, she's grown up into a very well-adjusted, well-balanced young lady.
Right.
So she kind of gets along with her mom now. Has your relationship improved with your mom? Have you guys kind of made amends, or?
No, not at all. She's still there. That the abuse had nothing to do with Nickelodeon. It just happened on Nickelodeon property, and so whatever those issues were, those issues were never resolved. If anything, it made it a bigger issue because dealing with the fact that it happened on Nickelodeon property and the way Nickelodeon tried to cover it up and the things that they were doing, they blackballed me. So as an adult, they made it very hard for me to make a living. I tell everybody, I said, if you actually listen and you pay attention to the videos, if I said anything that was incorrect, Nickelodeon would have sued my ass. Mm-hmm. They did not, because I did not say one thing that was a lie. I did not slander them. Everything I said was the truth, and there's a paper trail. So they know, like, trust and believe. If I said anything, they were waiting. They probably just were waiting for me to just say one thing that was untrue, and then I would have a gag order right now. That didn't happen because everything I said was true. And as far as my mom, the blackball thing, there was more aspects to it. Like I said, first season, I was pretty much one of the stars. One of them, because it was me. It would have been Cal and Keenan, and I think that was pretty much how. And then Lori Beth, because Lori Beth was, my information. So she was always in there like swimwear. Now the second season, the reason why it started looking like I was an extra is because first season, certain people, I don't want to say names, certain people try to make advances towards my mother. My mother turned them down. Ooh. And when that happened, my role started suffering. So because my mother went to sleep with certain people, it affected me. My mom completely blocked anything that was trying to happen. There was a situation where something inappropriate did try to happen. We were at a party, and my mom completely blocked it. But that's like the only memory that I have. But my mom was pretty much that wall. And they did not like that. And then my mom turns you down on top of it. Oh, she's public enemy number one.
I have a question, and this is without asking you to say anything out of turn or get yourself in trouble or get yourself sued. This is a total hypothetical. You have a daughter, you just said, right? She was singing in the background.
I have a daughter and a son.
Now, if your daughter was offered a starring role in a Dan Schneider created show, as a showrunner, one of his hit shows, the next show on Nickelodeon, would you allow your daughter
or son
to work? Well, yeah, but particularly daughter.
Okay.
To work on that set, and with little supervision and things like that.
Little supervision? No. Honestly, I would rather my kids be Disney kids, to be quite honest.
So you know what's funny? You know what's funny about that?
Who wouldn't?
You know how many people have said that? They've said the same thing, like, well, yeah, I'd rather them go to Disney, though. And I think a lot of the things that the reason why a lot of the stuff at Nickelodeon is kept under wraps, and this is just our guess, is because, especially now, Nickelodeon has Disney envy, because Disney's crushing them in the ratings right now, like crushing them.
Yeah.
And that's objective.
I will say Disney.
Yeah, go ahead.
People, it's pretty much you pick your devil, because they're both signing your life over to the devil. But if I would have had a choice, I would have preferred to have been a Disney kid, because one thing about Disney is they don't just like discard you unless you screw up. That's the only time they really kick you to the curb. They use you to the max.
Yeah,
you think, oh, you about to kick out 5 albums. Oh, if you do this, oh, you're about to be signed to this contract to Death Do His Part.
No, you're right, because they still do stuff with Shia LaBeouf, and that guy's a mess. He's a complete mess.
I had a character voice I was doing, killed them, had everybody just laughing. And actually, Dan took me to the side and was just like, yo, that was funny, blah, blah, blah. But kill that voice because you're taken away from such and such a scene.
Ooh.
But it was all of our thing,
Right.
And so when I got rid of the voice, everybody was like, why did you do that? But I wasn't about to be like, well, Dan told me, like I just like, oh, I don't want to do the character no more. But they were like, it was funny. But I was specifically told by him, don't do that voice anymore because you're taking the shine away from such and such.
Wow. So even then they had this weird little hierarchy.
Yeah, caste system.
Yeah, like a caste system.
First of all, they favor the males anyway. At that network, they favor the males.
Which is another reason, and Mike pointed this out, when Dan Schneider did go to receive his Lifetime Achievement Award, it was only males that were up there with him except for one, because
Victoria Justice,
because she was still doing a show.
She
with
was
him.
still under contract,
and we always thought that's weird with how many women and girls he's worked with.
It's a glaring,
it's
absence.
always been like that. I will say one thing I do remember, we had a female writer. She was dope, and she was the only female writer out of like a handful of male writers, and she ended up being fired.
Ooh.
Because she was for the females. As a matter of fact, she had wrote so many dope characters for me, and they didn't like that. She had wrote some dope characters for me. She had wrote some for the other girls, and they were like, it's not about them. It's about whoopsie wop and da-da-da-da, such and such. And they ended up, I remember that. She was dope. I can't even remember her name, but I remember she was the only female writer we had at that time, and they ended up releasing her because she was dealing with too much. I can't remember if she quit or if they fired her.
Huh.
But it was a problem. It was a problem because she wouldn't write what they wanted her to write.
Yeah, and that's the that's the thing that we're seeing too. It's they kind of like they make their own, to lack of a better word, they make their own environment where they could control the narrative, control what happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, back then when I was on, Dan was the one that was controlling all that.
Right.
So, like I said, there were situations. I dealt with situations. There was, I'm not going to try that one. There were situations where, like I said, physically, no, Dan never touched me. But there were, he verbally, I did damn near almost get cussed out by him on set for something that ended up being proven it wasn't my fault. But it was just like, even as a kid, like I said, there was a lot of unethical stuff going on. But I didn't even know about half the stuff that's hit Hollywood, the Hollywood shakedown, until I was doing an interview, and then I thought that they legitimately wanted to do an interview with me, and then they just like turned the tables on me and was like, "So,
oh wow,
what do you think about this?" And then that was my first time ever, like, even really knowing anything about it, because like I said, my mom, like I said, it was a double-edged sword with my mom's beating my ass, but then she's like protecting me from Nickelodeon all at the same time. Like, she blocked all that. Like I said, the reason why they started hating her was because she was blocking me from that, and because she was turning down sexual advances from it. So it was like, what do you do? And that's why second season, if you look, I was pretty much an extra, but I was a series regular.
Wow. And now I have another question for you, because if there's any young girls in a similar situation listening right now, is there any advice you would like to give them, or anything that you wish you knew when you were their age?
Well, it's 2017 right now, so times have changed compared to 96.
Good point.
And,
very good point.
Yeah, these young girls will probably teach her something.
We got social media now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Y'all got social media. You got blogs. You have everything that we did not have. If something is going on, man, talk about it.
So you're now you're recording an album right now, if I recall correctly.
Oh, yeah, working on the mixtape. And mixtape is in the album, because right now, this quarter, musically, this quarter is on break right now. So, right now I'm working on a mixtape. Okay,
and you're working with the guy, he was on Everybody Hates Chris, right? His name's Cavante Jackson?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's where you do your research.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't like to, I look into stuff. I don't like to just, fly up by the seat of our pants.
Yeah.
We even have, you can't see because you're on the phone, but we have a very lovely on the phone graphic. With your
yeah.
Yeah, we don't mess around. It's a professional outfit.
Oh.
And honestly, I got to say, we would love to have you on different circumstances that aren't about this, because you've been a wonderful guest.
The chat room loves you. The listeners love you. The people that listen to this not live later are going to love you. Yeah. So you're welcome anytime. You want to promote stuff, Call and shoot the shit with us. You've been amazing. So thank you so much for coming on.
We really appreciate it.
If there's anything now, it's at Angelique Bates on Twitter. Your Instagram's slightly different, right?
Yeah, it's no. On Twitter, it's Angelique Bates. Instagram is Angelique Bates. Now it's Facebook that's official Angelique Bates.
Okay, official Angelique Bates.
And we're going to provide all the links in the chat room to all our people or anything. But thank you so much for coming on. This was a really awesome segment, and you were. This is 2 days of back-to-back awesome guests. So thank you so much.
Again, we would love to have you back on different circumstances that aren't as dreary. But thank you so much.
For sure. Well, I can come back and talk about the mixtape.
Yes, you can. When it comes out, you call us, and we will have you on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll promote the shit out of it.
Thank you so much.
Angelique Bates, ladies and gentlemen.
Bye.
That was freaking cool.
Yeah, she was wonderful. I mean, really, that was.
You know, if I didn't know any better, I'd say your boys here are starting to get the hang of this whole interviewing people seriously thing. Because we were not very good at that years ago.
But now we're still not good at it, but we're funny.
But we're trying. We're still terrible at it, but we try hard.
Can we get one of them participation trophies?